coming up next. So I'll call up Don Ford to take the lead on this next portion of the event, the discussion panel. So take it away.
Thank you, Carla. So our panel discussion today is on the effects of de-icing products on groundwater and potentially some ideas on how we can mitigate them. We put together a panel including Giovanna, who we just heard from, on the biological side looking at eutrophication, but we also have Eric Thuss from Waterloo Region, Christina Anderson from TRCA, Kyle Davis, RMO for Wellington County. And we had a consultant, unfortunately a medical issue prevented her from speaking today. So I'm going to first of all call up Eric to just give a bit of background on who he is. So how this is going to work, each of them is going to just introduce themselves, their perspective, and then when they're done, when Kyle's spoken, then we'll proceed to the panel discussion. We'll have 2 microphones in the audience and 2 microphones up there so you can ask questions of them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Don. As mentioned, my name is Eric Thuss. I'm risk management official with the Region of Waterloo, and that means really my responsibilities are to implement policies under our local source protection plan. What I am not is a geoscientist, so go easy on me. I've always been told when I start a presentation to really hook the audience. So I'm going to say something really controversial here. Salt is a contaminant, and it's negatively impacting the environment, infrastructure, and drinking water here in Waterloo Region, in Ontario, and beyond. So yeah, very, very controversial there. There's other impacts though. There's a substantial cost associated with salt application, salt itself, but also equipment, staffing, insurance, etc. If we're applying more salt than we need or too little and requiring multiple trips, we're generating more emissions and greenhouse gases. And that's relevant here. The Region of Waterloo Municipal Council has declared a climate emergency, as has several local area municipal councils. So climate change is very much a factor here. And cities and municipalities are also more exposed to slip and fall claims, which feed into a apply more mentality. Increasing chloride concentrations in our natural systems can be linked to a few different factors, one of which is the expansion of our urban infrastructure. So all of our roads, streets, sidewalks, parking lots, trails, etc. need to be winter maintained, or they are winter maintained, and that means salt. And the Region of Waterloo, like many municipalities across Ontario, is growing a lot. And you can see in the slide here, the amount of growth in the region is quite significant over a relatively short amount of time. And it's projected to grow substantially in the next 25, 30 years. So since 1998, we've seen almost a 50% increase in our population, and projecting out to 2051, we're likely to see another approximately 50% increase. So that's a lot of people. It's a lot of infrastructure to support that population. And all that growth is putting pressure on our water supply. So the Region of Waterloo is a groundwater community. The region's home to approximately 120 municipal water supply wells and 1 river intake. And our water supply here is split approximately 80-20 groundwater to surface water. So in the region's current approved source protection plan, we've identified protection zones around our municipal wells and intake, including 10 well systems with elevated levels and or increasing trends of sodium and chloride. Concentrations at 24 wells across 9 of these systems showed increasing sodium and or chloride concentration trends in 2023. In 2023, 15 wells had chloride concentrations exceeding 250 milligrams per liter. And those are the red ones, the red dots on the map. and another 18 wells had concentrations between 125 and 250 milligrams per liter. So almost all of those wells are located in our urban areas. So elevated chloride concentrations in our municipal drinking water supplies, primarily in our urban areas. And that's over a quarter of our water supply wells with concentrations above half the aesthetic objective for chloride in our drinking water. In some of our major urban systems, we've started seeing concentrations exceed 250 milligrams per liter. And again, that's the Ontario aesthetic objective for chloride. We've been seeing exceedances consistently from around the year 2000. And now it's not uncommon for us to see concentrations more than double the standard. So that's the impact. The ways we're approaching mitigating this salt are varied. Here in the region, we take a few different approaches to address the issue. Through the Clean Water Act and our source protection plan policies, we can require risk management plans for salt application on parking lots greater than 200 square meters anywhere this activity is a significant threat, which coincidentally is throughout a lot of our urban areas. We have approximately 3,500 properties that require risk management plans. And for each risk management plan, our team works directly with property owners to implement best practices. We work with our region planning department and planning staff at the area municipalities to ensure risk management plans are negotiated and in place as part of Planning Act development applications and building permits. For existing threats, we prioritize based on proximity to the well and parking lot size. For all of it, we look for consistent mitigation practices. I've got a few listed there on the screen. Really, ice formation prevention is a big one, parking lot maintenance and upkeep, and training and documentation requirements for both the contractors that are applying the salt and the property supervisors who are overseeing the contractors. For development applications outside of source protection areas, we rely on our region official plan policies to request salt management plans. We do this through a few different development stages, primarily official plan, zoning, bylaw amendments, and condo applications. The measures in the salt management plans are consistent with our risk management plan. So again, for all of our policy approaches here, we're really looking for a consistent set of practices. The only difference between the salt management plan and the risk management plan is that our salt management plans, we cannot inspect or enforce the implementation of measures. So that's a policy approach. We do a lot of education and outreach as well around salt here in the region. In 2013, approximately, region staff began working on community-wide engagement campaigns with the goal ultimately to convey the message that salt reduction is an everyone issue. And I'll come back to that one, but that's one of the big things we try to press upon our community. It's not just snowplow operators or contractors. This really comes down to everyone here. We've worked on a few campaigns since that time, some of which you can see there on the screen. We've had some successes, some failures, lots of lessons learned. One of the things we continuously strive to do is to find the right tone with all of our community engagement. We found if we're too soft with our messaging, we see less urgency in tackling the issue. And if we're too firm, we look like we're finger pointing or accusing or lecturing. We've seen the importance of clear, concise language, the value of specific tips and actions for residents, and the concept of shared responsibility. Region staff also work directly with commercial properties on salt reduction initiatives, such as our closed area program and other materials to support the implementation of best practices. For years before the Clean Water Act and our source protection plan policies, a lot of this work was voluntary. So we continue to do the voluntary pieces in concert with our required risk management plans and salt management plans. And here's just one example of a resource we developed for property owners around winter maintenance best practices. So again, always clear, consistent measures and messaging. Really what we're trying to accomplish here is just best practices are best practices regardless. Through all of it, our levels of compliance may change. We may be able to, enforce compliance for a risk management plan. But again, if we have property owners who are buying in, we don't have to resort to that. Through all of our initiatives, one recurring message is that having best practices in place on region and city properties is key. We as the region of Waterloo recognize that we need to demonstrate that we can walk the walk and lead by example. We need to have our own house in order. So all region properties are required to have Smart About Salt certified contractors, and our winter maintenance tenders for all of our properties include minimum record keeping and documentation requirements. When the source protection plan took effect, we first engaged with our region properties to get risk management plans in place. What it comes down to is we're trying to hold region properties to a higher standard. We've also leveraged our region properties to pilot and promote some innovative approaches to winter maintenance. At our region airport, we have a winter maintenance contractor who uses liquid salt application exclusively to maintain a parking lot out there. At another region site, we've invested in technology like micro weather stations and cameras with the intent to work with a contractor to optimize material tracking and implement sustainable best practices through sophisticated data tracking and analysis. But success is rarely linear. As evident on the picture on the left, so that's a closed area. That's one of our closed area signs. So this is not a region property, but it's adjacent to one of our region sites. So that's a closed area where you've got tons of salt applied right in front of the sign with our messaging, and then salt through the closed area sign. So yeah, success isn't always linear. Things don't always go as planned, and we continue to see over application of salt. So one of the primary reasons for that is liability, lack of training and or oversight, challenging weather conditions. All of these things play a role. The tools we have available to us, such as risk management plans, help. But we need more help. So that could be minimum maintenance standards for private parking lots. That would go away, and that would go a long way, and that's something that contractors are also asking for. Liability protection for contractors who are trained and certified, and there's examples of that in other jurisdictions. Or more targeted approaches in sensitive areas. So that could be, in Quebec, there are winter eco routes where, there's minimal salt applied in environmentally sensitive areas. Or in Finland, there's examples of select roads where the speed limit is lowered by 20 kilometers per hour in the winter, just to lower the maintenance standard required for those roads. So there's examples if we get creative and we think outside the box and we get some outside help. So just to summarize really quick, salt application related to winter maintenance is negatively impacting the region of Waterloo municipal water supplies. There's also no one solution. We're using all the tools we have available to us, but this ultimately is an everyone issue. We need to look at innovative approaches and start to remove some of these barriers, including fundamental shifts in liability framework to make significant progress in mitigating salt usage. So yeah, that's what it feels like working with property owners on risk management plans. Thank you.